So the holes are drilled, we're now going to widen this hole out to about 3 millimeters. So with the initial hole now, we're going to use either a fine dovetail saw, or you can use a bandsaw to cut this line. This enables the hair to fit on the end. So the holes have been drilled, the slots have been cut. Now what we do, we're going to take some sandpaper. I suggest 180 to begin with. Fold it in half. Just clean out the slots. Just going to gently round off and remove any sharp edges on this. So we're going to, you can see on here, you can do this with rougher sandpaper. 180 will do it just as good, just a little bit longer. So we're just rounding off the edges. Look at the picture on the drawing. We're just rounding the edges off. There's no sharp edges protruding. Now what we want to do is also round it off this side also. You can see, so I've rounded just the corners, so there's nothing sharp. I've rounded off this part here. So there are no sharp edges left. The only sharp edges at the moment are inside here, and we're just going to make sure there's just a tiny bit of a V at the very end. This just stops the hair catching. This is with 180. Okay, once you've done this one, then you just need to repeat on all the others. So we go to the other one and we do exactly the same. Start off with the slot. You have to remove any fibres that are left and just make sure this is where the hair will go, so you don't want anything catching. And then we're going to gently round off the edges. With each of the ends shaped, we can now use the 180 sandpaper on the whole of the stick. And what we want to do is, all the grain was raised while it was wet. We're not trying to reshape this too much. Whatever shape your stick was before, we're trying to keep that, but we are smoothing the wood, make it as smooth as possible. And we're going to work our way from 180 through to 240 all the way. To 300, to 360, to 400 if we want to. Each of the stick in turn, just by wrapping the sandpaper around it. repeating on both sticks the same. This sandpaper has a coating on it that makes it less likely to clog. I buy this in a roll. It's called finishing paper. So I got 180, 240, I think up to 400 I use for this purpose. Each of the grits we use, we're going to use it to take away the markings from the previous grit. So each one smooths the wood slightly more. We're not removing much material because we're just making sure the whole thing is nice and burnished and polished. Keep going. Up to the next grit, this is 240. Okay, so finally what we need to do is to damp the wood. Just very lightly wetting. This is the last time we'll damp it before we finish. Use a piece of cloth just to rub that water in. Now all the grain is going to raise up again. I feel like a lot of your work might have been wasted, but it's not. This is a part of the finishing process. Okay. We just need to leave that to dry again. When the wood is dry, you take the finest sandpaper you used last, whether that's 240 or 400 grit, and you just go over again with the wood. Now this is going to leave the wood nice and polished now as all the grain has been raised. And you would put that process, those sticks to the same level. To seal the timber before a French polish, this is going to be a plain natural wood stick. What I'm going to do is to apply some boiled linseed oil. If you use raw linseed oil, it just won't dry properly. So I've used raw linseed oil, or if you can get the polymerized linseed oil. This will bring out the colour nicely. Just give you an idea of what it's going to look like. This also gives you a chance to inspect the wood. If there's any blemishes, then you can go back to the sanding stage again. Just a tiny bit more. The linseed oil will just soak right in. I'm using a piece of paper cloth so I can just flush this down the toilet. You must never leave the oil rags anywhere, or they can self-combust. For me, this is just an undercoat. Again, I'm going to French polish these ones. Some bows I just apply oil finish over the top. You can use Danish oil, tongue oil. There's a variety of finishes you can use for these that work very well. Whatever you're familiar with is probably fine. And you can just stop at this point and just leave it and then add beeswax later on if you want a natural matte finish. But this seals the wood and it gets us ready for the next stage. Sometimes the simplest ones are the best. Just using cotton wools and well-used cotton cloth. I've got a couple of videos for some of my instruments showing the French polishing process. This is something that's going to take a few weeks, and so in some ways it's quite easy with the stick. You just do a couple of coats, maybe 4 or 5 times a day. It dries very quickly. The only difference to the mixture is that I would add a little bit of walnut oil as I go, which adds to the glossiness of the French polish. But I also use olive oil as a lubricant later, but this is just the initial coats. On a bow like this, this is like it takes me about a week or 2 to build up the finish. I stop when it looks and feels about right. So I can do it a couple of times at the moment because it's the initial coats. I'm using Rustin's French polish. The only difference is, I say, I added a little bit of walnut oil. And as I go, I will add some olive oil to help the lubrication. It's already starting to shine. You can just about see the shine on this. And this is only one application, but we're going to go take this up to quite a nice, see the light, it's already starting to be shine. In between sessions, you'll keep this in an airtight container. You can also keep this inside a rubber glove to keep it from drying out. As I said, we can probably get maybe 4 times a day. We can come back and do this. And so this is my branding stamp made of brass, and that's what I use. I use with a candle to melt my logo on this. So you're not burning it in, you're using the candle wax, lamp black basically, and the heat onto the wood. I do this before I do the French polishing completely. I don't want to be burning through shellac.